All right. I forgot to check to see if I was full screen. I hope I am. Okay, that's how I left it. So anyway, for those people who weren't here last time, and there's several of you, we went over the syllabus. I recorded that on Screencast-O-Matic, okay? Now that one that what I showed on the screen wasn't quite updated, but now I've gotten it updated. But what you see, you'll hear me talk about the discrepancies on it. But I got everything, I think, knock on wood, fixed. But the thing is, remember integrity? It uploaded immediately to Blackboard. As soon as I finished the class, it took 15, 30, 45 minutes, something like that. It was on Blackboard. Now I physically have to copy the files from Screencast-O-Matic into Blackboard, and I haven't been able to set up my desk long enough to do that. Hopefully I'll get that done either this afternoon, maybe tomorrow morning, okay? So anyway, that will be coming. So you can hear everything I said about the syllabus, and probably about that same time I will have the syllabus up there, correct the syllabus on Blackboard as well. Now, are y'all all familiar with Blackboard? Okay. And at least in the instructor side, on the home page of Blackboard, there's a block here in the upper left corner with a bunch of tabs. And one of those early tabs there on the instructor side is content. That's where I'll put Blackboard. That's where I'll put research paper instructions. That's where I'll put my locator card. I got that done yesterday afternoon too. I will put all your PowerPoints there. Okay? I don't have them there yet, but I will. And I assume that's where I'll load Screencast-O-Matic's recordings of the classes. Okay? So those will all be going, I assume, into content, unless I've got a computer science kid who's in a couple of classes, 3 classes this term, and he's really good. And he said, look, I'll help you do all this. So I may just turn over moving all these files to him. He'll do it much faster, and probably is better than I would do. So anyway, that will be happening hopefully this afternoon. Don't know for sure. So you'll be able to see the syllabus quietly, or you can hear me talk about it. All right. So any questions on that? So you'll be able to pick up anything you may, or a lot of what you may have missed. All right. Research paper. Research paper, if you were here for the syllabus, you'll know it's required for the course, okay? It's a required grade, cannot be dropped, okay? You get to choose your topic. Choose any topic within the scope of the course, anything having to do with pre-calculus algebra. It can be a person, and we'll run into several people along the way here who have contributed to this. It can be a theory. We'll see several theories along the way. It could be a phenomenon that's described or explained by algebra, okay? An application, now that's, I really like to see you do those because I want you to see, maybe look at your major, your field of study, and how are you using pre-calculus algebra, okay? And I think all of you will find there's many places that would be a good, or something like that, some application. Or any other such topic about which you have an interest. I'd rather have something that you're interested in. Now, some of you may have a major of something, but you're really interested in computer gaming, and guess what? Algebra is used in developing those games, okay? And so there's anything that you have an interest. Now, here's one other possibility. Or you can write a paper on an internet application or demonstration, think YouTube videos, those type of things that you find helpful for the class, okay? Now, when I said what I was going to put in content, I'm going to put some of those places, they're not all YouTube, but a lot of them are, that I have found or students have told me about in the past. I'll put those on content too, so you can see those, and if you find they're helpful. But if you find something that you say, man, why didn't he say it that way? This makes it so clear. Or I wish the book would have written, if you can find something that you find useful to the class, then you can write on that. And you only have to do a page or two, okay? I can easily imagine. What is it you weren't understanding that was foggy to you, or vague to you? And how did this video make it clearer, okay? Maybe another paragraph on other videos you looked at and what their weaknesses were and stuff. How is this one stronger? Okay? Maybe another paragraph, oh, I wish he'd have gone further because he was doing such a good job. Yeah, you could do that. And then, you can put together a paper really easily describing why that internet application or demonstration or YouTube video was helpful and useful to you. Okay? Now, what I'd like you to do either today or next week, if possible, is a real hard assignment here. Write your name on a piece of paper, okay? And write the topic you're interested in pursuing. Now, you have plenty of time to change. You can do that anytime, but I want to get you thinking about this, what you would like to write on. Now, you can start. You can use the weekend to see if you can find nice sources for it, stuff like this. Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's why I give you until next week, too. But if you already know what you want to write on, you can give it to me right now. Now, I hate for you to waste a whole sheet of paper on just your name and your paper topic. So here's something that's optional, has nothing to do with the research paper, but since you're going to give me a piece of paper, I think I described to you last time that most of registration week, I was registering students or I was having to cancel classes because I'm the math department chair, and the small classes that looked like they obviously weren't going to make, I was having to cancel. So I was on the phone trying to contact students before I canceled the class. Most people don't do this, but I don't see why, because it seems like to me it's the way to do it. But I was on the phone with trying to contact the students in those classes, telling them it's going to be canceled, helping them find a replacement in their schedule. It took a long time. It took me basically 4 days solid of doing that, of the classes I canceled, well, in between advising students and that kind of stuff. But what I was getting at is at least one person per class, usually 2 or 3, there would be something wrong with their phone number. Either disconnected, never picked up, so I didn't know if I was calling them the right person or not. So there's problems like that. So this doesn't happen frequently, but it has happened. I get frantic phone call from the front desk or the dean's office or somewhere. Is thus and so is in your class? You have a good way to get in touch with them. The numbers don't work. Tell me about it. I knew they didn't work. So if you have given me a number and you don't mind me doing this, I'm not going to give it to another student. It's only going to be for official business of the college. And usually it's something important to you. An emergency has happened or someone's desperately trying to get in touch with you that for a legitimate reason. And it has to come from there. If you don't mind me doing so, if you give me your very best phone number, I will then have it in front of me. I can look it up and say, well, yeah, he gave me this number. She gave me this number. You can try that, okay? If you don't want to do that and you want to put a note by that, you can say, call me first. So if someone do this, I'll say, well, give me your number, and I will call the student, and the student then will choose whether to call you back or not. If you want to do that, I can do that as well. But if you don't want to give me a number, you don't need to. Now, I'm guessing most of you, that number will be your cell number, right? But if those cell numbers, if there's a chance, a possibility that the battery could have died, you left it at home, it fell between the seats of the car, and you can't get to it, and you had to get to class, or, you changed the provider, or, you got run over by a truck, anything like this, that the phone isn't working that day. If you want to give me your very best backup number, mom's landline or something like that, you can do that or not. I don't have to have any of this, but if you want to, you can. Or now, a lot of my students, maybe not you guys, but a lot of them do work during the day or evenings or sometime, and it could be that when that emergency arises, you're going to be at work. They don't let you have your cell phone there, and calling mom's landline isn't going to help any. But if you can take incoming calls at work and want to give me that number, that's fine too, okay? It's up to you. You can give me 0 numbers, 1, 2, up to 3. Can't imagine why I would need more than 3. But anyway, you can write that on the same piece of paper. Okay, that was the advertisement. Let's get back to the research paper. You'll need to find at least one, but 2 or more are better, outside sources for your paper. Now, what do I mean by outside source? anything that you can find in the library, any book, journal, magazine, newspaper, any kind of articles, or other such materials that you find in the library that support the paper, that's good outside sources. Now, here's a sort of a sticky issue for any legitimate source that you find on the internet. I tell my students during my lifetime, I think the most incredible thing that's been developed, I know a lot of life-saving drugs have been developed and all sorts of things, but to me the most incredible thing that's been developed was the internet, okay? I don't think it existed in 1951, okay, but it's all been developed in my lifetime, and it is amazing. Anywhere in the world you can get anything in the world, it seems like. Two major problems with the internet. I'm almost totally convinced that at least half of the stuff on there is total garbage, okay? And the second problem is sometimes we don't know which half, okay? So be very careful with the internet. Make sure it's a legitimate source. Most of the time you'll see that it is well documented and stuff like that. That's fine. But if it's somebody's opinion, not really that good. Now, this text has some really good ideas in it. Periodically, you'll find these little historical perspectives or a blurb about the scientists that just talked about who developed this theory or something like that, the mathematician who did this, that, and the other. Okay? You can get ideas from the book, but the book is not an outside source. One of the main purposes of the paper is get you out of the book into the real world, okay? Or at least as real as the library gets, okay? Or the internet. Okay. Any questions on that? Your paper must be at least one word processed page of text. Now you get the double space. This is single space, but you get the double space, okay? Now what do I mean by one page of text? Okay, a lot of students give me a nice format, and that's fine, I don't require it. And they'll have a little header up here with their information, skip a few lines and a title, and triple space or so, and then you start typing here. What's one page of text? That's going to go to the bottom of this page, and then starting on the top of the second page, down at least that far. That's one page of text. That's the minimum. You don't have that, you're going to lose some points. Okay? So that's one page of text. And word processed, I don't take handwritten, please don't, okay? And that would be in 12 pitch or 12-point font. I think that's what this is. You can't do 26-point and 5 words fill up the page and say I'm through. No, that's not going to work, okay? So standard, you know that. All right, the font's up to you as long as I can read it, okay? I don't read hieroglyphics. I don't read Greek or Old English, all that. Keep it simple, plain, clean. Times New Roman is just about all the word processing default, but this is an Arial, the Courier. I don't care. There's tons and tons and tons of good readable fonts. That's up to you. Try to keep the paper less than 2 pages. The only reason I say that, this is not a major research effort. It's just a thing to get you out of the book into the real world, seeing applications, or following up on things you find of interest, and putting it a little more practical. Not a major thing. So I'm not looking for even a 5-paragraph essay. That would be fine if you wanted to do it, but most of the time that goes. But give me a good paper. 1 to 2 pages is all I'm looking for. Now, if you get so excited about your subject, and I've had students do this, and they just can't stop, and really it's hard to stop because if it's a topic that you're really interested in, I don't take off points if it's too long. I only take off if they're too short, okay? But now I've also had some students that appeared to follow this kind of approach. Well, I know this isn't going to be very good, so I'm going to do more of it, He'll be impressed by how much effort I put in this because it's so long, But give me real slop garbage, Well, guess what? When I'm grading your paper, when it comes into me, it's a 100-point paper. I can hear you right now. Don't do anything to it. No, I'm going to read it. I'm going to grade it. And as I read and grade, I start taking off points for errors. Okay? Hopefully not many. Okay? And if you turn me in a real sloppy, messy, poorly done, poorly checked paper would make it longer and longer and longer, and I have to read through all that stuff, you're losing more and more points, okay? So the length is now working against you. You give me a good paper, well-researched, good proof, all that, you're going to be fine the roads, whether it's 1 page or 3 pages. I don't care. It's going to be good, okay? So don't sacrifice length for quality. Keep it 1 to 2 pages. Well, no, you don't have to. At least 1 to 2 pages. All right. Now, what format? I don't care, okay? Most English classes teach MLA, Modern Language Association. Fine with me. I don't care. A lot of scientific organizations use APA, that's American Psychological Association. They came up with a format, I guess, early on, and everybody said, wow, that's a nice format, so a lot of people use that. But different journals have different formats. You choose the one you're comfortable with and stick with it. That's the main thing, consistency. Notice I blocked my paragraphs. I'm not following any particular format, so I did it, but I'm doing all the paragraphs that way. So if your format says indent, indent, but then indent all the same way. Or block, you block. Or if they don't specify, you choose and stay with it. Okay? Here's another example I've seen. Somewhere up here maybe you cite a source. And you open parentheses, put the author's last name, comma, year of publication, or something. Whatever your format calls for. But then down here in this paragraph, you cite a different source, and you open the parentheses and put the title of the article, comma, page number, close parentheses. That's not consistent. I think I know what happened. This source up here, you were seeing how they documented or formatted their sources, but this one used a different format, so you use that format for this one. No, you pick the format and stay with it. Whether it's the one that either of the papers use, I don't care. You pick your format and follow that. Now, spelling, grammar, sentence structure, all those things that you lose points in English classes, you'll lose points here too if you have those errors. Okay? There's no reason in the world not to use spell check. Well, I've run into some reasons, I think. It's my speculation here. Those papers I get in late in the term, like the last day, yeah, so and turned it in. They didn't use spell check, I can tell. I can look at the paper and tell. So please, use spell check, use grammar check, and use good proofreading. I can remember a high school English teacher, junior and senior years, at the same one, and she gave us our senior year, I guess, research paper to do, or any of her long papers. This was standard. I'll use some of her terminology here. She said, get your paper done early, of course. All teachers want you to do that. But she said, set it down, and she used this term, let it rest, okay? Several days over the weekend, something like that. And then pick it up next week, and here's what she used, and read it with fresh eyes, okay? What she meant by that, when you pick it up, here's one way of proofreading, which isn't very good. Type, read. Type, read, okay? Guess what? You know what you want to say because you were typing it. And when you read it, it's going to say that to you, whether it really does or not. Your mind is going to know what you're looking at. If you let it rest, pick it up with fresh eyes, read it several days later, reading along and say, what was my meaning here? Well, guess what? If you say that, I'll be saying that same thing too, okay? I know you've done that with emails or texts and things when you later went back and read. I did that, okay? Oh no, that's not what I meant, okay? So do that with your paper too. Get working on it early so you have that luxury of going back and using good proofreading techniques. Okay, now I'm talking about all that stuff. Content also matters, okay? Here's a couple of dumb examples. This has happened more than once, but it doesn't happen often, but it has happened. Somewhere when you're first talking about someone writing on somebody, Isaac Newton or somebody, there's lots of people like writing. Okay, and when they first mention his name or her name, they'll put in parentheses, you don't have to, but they chose to, year of birth, comma, year of death, close parentheses. Then there was something wrong there. You're not being consistent. Now that's dumb. But I've also seen with dates something that I know pretty much happened in 1492, but when you typed it, it came out 1942. You know, I think I can pick up that that's probably not true. So content, now those are just dumb things, but not quite, well, these are dumb too. I've received a lot of papers on Pythagorean theorem, good topic, but I've had some people tell it to me totally wrong. You know, they put the plus and minus signs in the wrong place, or when they described it, they just missed it. You know, they got out. So I'll be able to pick up most of the content. And even if I have a question, I'm going to go to the source and say, is this really right? This doesn't sound right. And I have found errors that way too. Okay, so those kind of errors. Now, when's the paper due? I've sort of been playing around with that, but let's hit it now. It's technically due the last day of class before final exam week. Okay? Not during final exam week, not the day of final exam, the last day of class before that final exam week ever starts. Okay? But please don't wait till then to turn it in. Okay? You'll never have more time to work on the paper than you do right now. How many of you already have quizzes and tests and papers due? You do. Congratulations. Okay, so we got some good instructors, right? Okay. But guess what? In 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to have 5 times that number. No, you'll have more. So this is the best time to get started. Get started. Choose your topic. Look for sources. Start the writing. Get it done as soon as you can. Okay? Now, I've been here, I think this is starting my 19th year. I lose track, okay? And at least 15 of those years I've been assigning those papers. So that's a long time. And back early on, we were on the quarter systems. That was 4 quarters a year. Now we're on semesters, 3 semesters a year. I've never missed a summer either. And I usually teach, I don't know if I've ever taught one term that only had 4 classes. Most of the time it's been 5 to 8. 8 was the max, and that was way too many. This term is 7, okay? Every class and every course I teach has a paper assignment. And this is probably a little above average, but, of course you're above average, but you know, the number of you, a little above average. About 15 would be what most of the average class size would be. I've had smaller classes and much bigger ones too. So if you multiply all those together, I've seen a lot of papers, okay, over 15 years, okay? Now it's a gross generalization, but it's a trend. Most of the time, the papers I get in earliest in the term are some of my best papers. And then as the term goes on, I mean, they sort of plateau a little here, and then toward the end, overall, the quality starts stinking because people just are rushing to get it done. At the end of the term, they don't have time. Now, I've received some real dogs early in the term, and I've gotten some great papers at the end of the term, but the trend is always downhill, okay? So please, folks, get started early. Okay, that's the stick, okay? And by the way, you do lose points if it's after the last day of class, if you turn it in after the last day of class. But here's the carrot. If you submit your paper in the month of August, that's only this week and Tuesday of next week maybe, you may not be able to do it, but if you do, you receive 4 bonus points. Whatever score you get, plus 4, okay? September, you get 3 bonus points. October, 2, November, 1. December, you just get the score you made, okay? So it's not much, but it's trying to encourage you to get those in sooner. But think about it, 4 bonus points, almost half a letter grade, okay? If 5's half a letter grade, you're close to it. Okay, now here's one thing I require that I don't think anyone else does, but I still like to have it. I won't have it. It's required. When you submit your paper, please attach a single page from one of your sources. Now, maybe you had 3 sources. Just pick one. Don't give me the whole source. Just print a page from that source. If it's something you got out of the library, carry that book, that journal, that magazine, whatever, over to the copier. Copy me 1 page from the source. If it's something you got off the internet, now you may have printed the whole thing, fine, because you were going to use it when you're writing your paper, but I only need 1 page. 1 page from a source, just 1 source. Now, if you chose to write on that computer application, that YouTube video or something, there's not a page you can print. So send me the link from that. I want that link anyway so I can look at it too, especially early on, and say, okay, this guy's really entertaining, but what he's saying is wrong, so don't go with this one, okay? So get me that link early, but that will suffice it for you for the pages thing. Any questions? Yes?
So this research paper is for you, not the class.
I'm sorry?
This research paper is for you, not the class. Are we writing research paper?
Well, yeah, for me. And what do you mean not for class?
We don't have to wait till class.
No, you don't have to. Usually we won't have time for that. I've had one class that we actually finished all the material, and we did take the last day for anyone who wanted to report on this paper, his or her paper, and they got bonus points for doing so. That's happened once, and it wasn't a math class. It was a physical science class. So not a good chance of that happening. So no, you're in the safe zone there. It's just for me to read. Good deal. Good question, by the way. Any others? All right, that's the research paper. There's one more thing we have to talk about. I'm sorry I'm taking too long. I never get anything done on time. And that is safety. There's 3 areas of safety we emphasize. Can anyone think what they might be? Anyone? One is external to us. Okay? Now, fall term isn't as likely to happen as spring, but we do have changes of temperature, and anytime you have rapid, abrupt changes of temperature, you could have tornadic activity or severe weather. Okay? Now, again, fall isn't as common as spring, but then we're still in hurricane season, and hurricanes can spawn tornadoes too. So anything could happen. So if we're in here and we hear that siren go off, what do we do? What's the rule?
Scream and panic.
Second?
Scream and panic.
No, all right. Okay, he minus 17 for today. Class participation. Okay. No. The rule is low interior. So what do we do? I'll get far from my microphone so this won't be picked up. But here we are in the corner office here. Corner classroom here. Okay? Now, we go out the door, take an immediate left, go down this half flight of stairs, very slowly and carefully, no screaming and panicking, going down the steps, okay? Take another left and go down one more flight. You're almost at the lowest point of the building. There's about 2 or 3 steps to go beyond that. But that is where we go, and we go interior. Low and interior. Now, believe it or not, one of the safest places to be in this building would be the restrooms. They're when you get down at the bottom of the stairs, the restroom's right in front of you. There, the walls are close together, and you've got corners. Corners are your strongest part of the building. Okay? So walls and corners. Now, the trouble is, if it is a severe weather situation, the odds are the power's going to go out. Okay? If the power goes out, that means there's no lighting and no ventilation. So therefore, the restroom may not be your number one choice of where to spend the next 2 hours. Okay? It may be if you like that kind of thing. Okay? But it's still the safest. Okay? So that's not bad. Okay? Right next to the restroom on that, in fact, you go down those couple of steps, and there's room 158, I think it is. Yeah, 158. It's actually the dean's office. Okay? The dean's over on the other campus. She has an office here, and the associate dean, they use that office when they're here, which isn't very frequently. But if they are here that day, and they're in the office, and some of you can go in there, again, it's a small space, walls are close together, and you've got corners. Stronger than being out in the open. But they don't have emergency lighting or ventilation either, but they do have a glass door, so the light can come in from the hall. So after those 3, the restroom, okay, then is the hallway. Now the hallway doesn't have the corners, but it does have close walls. But stay near the walls. And that's where most people are going to be. The advantage of the hallway is it does have emergency lighting. It will come on if we lose power. No ventilation, but it does have emergency lighting. So that's probably where most of us will wind up. Now, if that hall gets way too crowded and it's just not comfortable there, you go on down. Now this is the second floor, but it's approximately the same. The next is a classroom, room 160, just before you get to the last door to the library there on the right. It's a big space, so you don't want to be in the middle of the space. Corners are best, walls are next best. So you can't even be in there, but it doesn't have emergency lighting either, but at least you might have a little more room. Then if you went through those glass doors into the library area, that first room right there is a computer room. Smaller room, so the walls are a little closer together, so it's probably safer than the classroom, but as long as you're near the corner of the wall, you're okay. And then right next to that is what I call the reference room. It's where the atlases and globes and those kinds of things are. That's also an interior room. What you want is low interior. These all fit the bill. Don't go any further in the library because then you're on an external wall. You don't want to be in an external wall, only internal. So those are the places to go. Now, when you're going, and I don't want to just single you out, but this is reality. I'm going to be probably the last person down there because I'm going to help anyone who needs assistance to get down the stairs and into the hall. Now, most of the rest of you look pretty able-bodied, but guess what? You could have a skiing accident or something like this and break a leg or something like that. Might be in a wheelchair. If that's the case, I might ask somebody else who's strong and able-bodied to help me get that person down the stairs safely. So, you'll get there before me. Does that mean you do whatever you want to? Not quite. In fact, the worst thing you can do is, wow, bad weather's coming, let me get home, I need to get the dog out, or in, or something like that. No, you don't, okay? The worst place to be just about is in a car on the road when a tornado hits. Stay here. Because when I finally get down there to the safe area, then we all need to stay together until I call roll again and make sure we can account for everybody. And if we can't, if some person has decided to go visit a friend on the other end of the building, try to make it home in the car, stuff like this, and nobody knows, then that means somebody has to go back upstairs where it's really dangerous and search for that person and maybe put his or her own life at risk. Don't do it. Stay together until we get accounting, everybody's accounted for, and then if you want to mingle among your friends and stuff like that, you can. But at first, we stay together. Any questions? That's a weather emergency, specifically tornado, severe weather, something like that. All right. What's another safety issue we might have? Hopefully won't, but could. Fire, exactly. Now let's start local. All right, let's say, I can't see much things that could happen in here, but let's say the projector starts overheating and starts bursting into flames and stuff like this. What would we do? He's going to panic again. I know him. Okay, all right. But what would we do? What should we do? There's a few steps that need to be taken. Anyone think what they would be? Okay, it would be great to put out the fire. How would we do that? Fire extinguisher. Where's the closest fire extinguisher? Okay. Where's the closest fire extinguisher? Wow, where would that be? About 4 feet from where I'm standing. You can't get much closer than that. Right there on the wall. Okay? Closest fire extinguisher. So if I'm trying to keep him from panicking and hyperventilating or something, someone go out there and get the fire extinguisher. Come in. I will put out the fire. Okay? Unless you really know what you're doing, I'll let you, but it's my responsibility, not yours. Okay? So, we get the fire extinguisher. One person's doing that. What else do we need to do? Say again? Okay, we want to get downstairs, but what would be better? That's saving our necks and lives and burns and stuff. But what are we forgetting about? Oh, yeah, we got to tell everybody else. Okay? So, where's the closest fire alarm? All right, let's see if we can find it here. Okay, let me point something out to you. This hallway here on the second floor, this one that goes down the half flight of stairs, this long one that goes down here, and then the one that goes over here too. These are all, and by the way, you can tell them by the terrazzo floors. Okay? If you see terrazzo floor and tiles on the wall, guess what? This is the old part of the building. That's when this was reasonable to do and not cost a fortune. Okay? Back when this building was built, there was no code requiring fire alarms. Surprising but true. So you will not find a fire alarm on any of these old halls here. So the closest fire alarm, you go out the door, take a left, go down that half flight of stairs, go to this little corridor here, the one that goes across to the financial services office. As soon as you enter that new part of the building, immediately on your left there is a fire extinguisher. Okay? That's where you'll find the fire alarm. That's the closest. Now I really would like not just one, but two people to go. So you have a buddy with you, go down and pull the fire. So someone gets the fire extinguisher, two people go to pull a fire alarm. Any of you have a phone? Oh yeah, some of you do. Do any of you have the police, Boston State Police, in your cell phone as a number? Not a bad idea to do. If you haven't, then by all means, somebody is hitting that number and saying, look, we're in 255, a projector just started blazing on us, we're trying to put it out, we're evacuating, we're doing the alarm, this is where the fire is, let them know. If we don't have, no one has Boston State Police, what do we do with that phone? 911, okay, not as good as calling our people, because our people they'll get in touch with 911, and they can be a first responder, but we'll call 911, and then somebody, let's see, it probably will be me, make sure we get the word to the police. Okay? All right. Then we get out of the building. Now we go low and out, not low and in. Okay? And again, what we do is very much like before. You go out the door, take a left, go down the half flight of stairs, take another left, go down that one flight, and then rather than go in, you go out. Okay? And you go out at least, I think they recommend 75 feet away from the building, perpendicular to it away, not along the building. Ooh, it's cold out here, the sun, I don't want to get, No, you get away from the building. Why? If there's a fire, there could be an explosion. If there's an explosion, glass is going to be going out the building. So you get away from the building, but stay in a group. Because I'm fiddling around in here, somebody else is doing something. Get together as a group. When we all get back together, I'll call roll again. And guess what? If somebody wandered off, said, hey, no more school today, I'm out of here, and no one knew that, and we can't account for everybody, somebody has to come back into the building risking his or her life again because you didn't stay as a group. So please stay together as a group until we hear word, okay, we're going to go to whatever, or y'all are out of here. They'll let us know usually pretty soon. Okay. I think we covered everything with fire. Okay? All right. Now, what would be another type of emergency? We never used to mention this at all because it's inconceivable. Huh? I can't hear. Someone said something. Active shooter. Man, I hate that we even have to say it. But it has happened on at least one community college campus, somewhere way away from here. It may have been more than one, but I've only heard of one. But it still happens. In fact, Monday night or afternoon, the dean was at the help desk, and I needed to talk with her about something, so I'd gone down to talk with her. She was busy with a student. Then her phone rang, and she picked it up and said, here's your department chair right here. It's one of my math instructors who teaches school in the day and is adjunct in the evening. So she handed me her phone, and I started talking with her. She said, look, I'm in lockdown. Now this is after 5 o'clock in the evening. I'm in lockdown at a school. She said, there was a shooting. I said, on campus? She said, no, it was just off campus, but you could hear it, so they locked down the school. Now that had to have been before 3 or 3:30, right? Because everybody would have been leaving or gone by then. They weren't. So they had been in lockdown for 2 hours because they still had not identified the student. Actually, one of their kids, I guess just leaving school or whatever, just outside of campus, there had been a shooting and that child was killed. Okay? And that does happen. Okay? Now we're talking about on campus. And this was here in Birmingham. Okay? Now I didn't see, yes. I don't know. I don't know what her school was. Was there a shooting at your house? Monday? Okay, I guess that was it. It was what? Very close to what? I can't hear you. AutoZone. Okay, right next to school. Okay. I hadn't heard any details. That's probably at Monday. Okay. So it happens. Okay. So now guess what? You just noticed I'm hard of hearing. If there is a shot fired somewhere in or near the building, guess what? Who's going to hear it first? Not me. You will. Okay? So therefore, if you hear something and you say, that sounds like gunfire, what do we do? Do we go down and out, down and in? We stay right here. Okay? Here's what happens. I'll give you the secret. I'll take my little key here because this door is unlocked, right? I'll take my little key. I have one. Now, there's no way to lock this door from the inside. I can't even open the door and press a button and lock it because there are no buttons. I have to physically go outside the room and lock the door and then come back in. Don't you dare pull the door closed. No. Okay. But get back in and close the door. So I've now secured best I can one entrance to the room. I see all of you looking this way. There's another entrance to the room. How about this door? Well, it does have a button on the side. There. Now it's locked from this side, but not from that side. That doesn't do us any good, does it? In fact, that keeps us locked in. So don't lock this door. But I don't have a key for it. It's a deadbolt. I wish I did. I can't do this. However, it's if one of you want to do that, you can be doing it while I'm locking this one. If you don't want to, I'll go and do that. Just let me know that you haven't done it yet. Then I close this door because guess what? There's a window. Okay, so we close this door when there is no window. We'll also close this one. So we can't lock either one of them. And then what do we do? What do the rest of you do? You get right back here and join these nice people over here because you want to go when we turn off the light. Because we want them to think this room is enough. Okay? So we get into here, out of sight, and back here. If he fires through the door, I say he because most of them I think have always been he's, unfortunately, then, yeah, it could come through the door. If he has the firepower to go through that, he's going to get damaged because it's going to be a big blast coming back at him and he has no room to go. So, yeah, that's the safest place right back here. We all get in our nice quiet little group and we stay there until we hear otherwise. Okay? Oh, I forgot something. What would y'all do first? Yeah, we'll do a lot of that. Okay, guarantee. Continuously. Okay? We make sure somebody knows. Hopefully, a lot of people will have dialed it first, but if you're the first one, you get bonus points. Dial 911. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Okay. Call that campus police if you have it on speed dial, and call that. They'll probably know too because they've heard it too, but we make sure they know. After that, we're as quiet as we can be. Okay? Any questions? Sorry we have to go over that. I don't want to make light of it, but we have to be able to think quickly when those kind of things happen and make good choices. Okay. Any questions? Man, we have 15 minutes left for math. Not nice at all. Okay. Don't tell me I didn't open. What's that? It's not yet. I hope to get it there this afternoon. I've got it updated, but I don't have it there yet. And the research paper will be there too. Okay. I thought, okay. Sorry about this. I thought I had pulled up. I guess I didn't. Sorry. Here we go. The DVD for the class. I usually have this done beforehand, but I got distracted and didn't get it done. It won't take long, I hope. The PowerPoint took forever yesterday to load. So far, nothing's happening. There it comes. Okay, good. This is exciting, isn't it? Okay. Now, for those who weren't here before, and there's several of you, let me go over this again. This is the text. Okay, a few people have it. Good to see. The first chapter, functions in the graph. That's what we're going to be covering, but the first three sections, rectangular coordinates. Please tell me you know that already. Okay. Graphs of equations, I sure hope you know that too. And linear equations in two variables, you had that before sometime. Now, if any of that's fuzzy to you, review 1 through 3, section 1.1 through 1.3. We're starting in 1.4. Now, anything that we run into, I think we're starting in 1.4. What is this doing? Let me try it again. Anything that we run into, if say, whoa, I don't remember how to do that, stop us. We'll review how to do it. Okay? So there's no, I was in the U.S. Navy, and I'm not saying that U.S. Navy was all that great as far as instruction, but every Navy class I ever went to, I think, it seems like every one of them, the instructor at some point would say, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Except, there is one exception to that. A question that's not asked. Okay? If you have a question and you don't ask it, that's dumb. As soon as it's out of your mouth, it's no longer a dumb question. Okay? So please, if you have questions, ask. Okay? This is foundational material. I want you to have a good, strong foundation to build your math career or something, okay? If you don't have the good foundation, you're going to be hurt. So please ask if there's any questions, okay? All right, we'll start at, well, yeah, here it comes. Current slide. Now, this book, and I'll say this again, I think I've already said it, I don't like the publisher of the book very much, but I sure like this author and what he's done. Now, PowerPoint does some strange things, and you can't see it, but I'm hiding what they call presenter view because I found out what gets sent to Screencast-O-Matic, or at least its true integrity, was not what's projected on the board, but what shows up on my screen. So I have to adjust the screen here so it's maximum visibility. There. Whoops. Yep. I do want you to see it too. Okay, now we can see it in both places. That doesn't look any different from what it did before, but it looks different there, and that's what gets recorded. All right, talking about functions. What in the world's a function? Anyone have an idea? If not, we're going to get it real soon. So, the objectives in this section, 1.4, are determine whether relations between two variables are functions or not, and use function notation. So we're going to get right into what functions are. And you sort of see in this description, there's something called a relation that may or may not be a function. All functions are relations, but not all relations are functions. We'll get there in a little bit. We'll talk about what in the world's the domain of a function. Well, we'll find that. We'll use functions to model and solve some real-life problems. Hey, that's why we do all this. And we'll evaluate something called a difference quotient. Okay? These are just the topics. We'll get each one separately. Okay? So I'll let you write them if you want to. And as soon as I get them out there on Blackboard, then you can print them ahead of time. You don't have to do all the writing if you tend to want to do that. Okay? All right. Well, a few people are writing. Let me talk about what in the world is a relation between two variables. Anyone think of an example of that? Well, let's see, introduction to functions and function notation. Let's go and hit that first topic. Many everyday phenomena involve two quantities that are related to each other by some rule of correspondence. Okay? The mathematical term for such a rule of correspondence is a relation. Okay? Now, sometimes the rules are pretty mild. Here's an example of a relation. Okay? All of you have a birthday, right? Let's say a birth month or a birthday. Okay? So, all the people with a certain birth date, you also have a height, right? So, birth date and height. Now, there's really no correlation there, but that's a relationship. You have a birth date, you have a height. Okay, we won't talk about weight, I'm sensitive about that, but yeah, we'll talk about height, okay? So, that's a relation. Now, there's not going to be any mathematical rule that ties those together, but that's a relation. Okay, probably a fairly meaningless one, but it's a relation. Now, in mathematics, quite often we use equations and formulas to represent relations, and sometimes these are just relations, but many times they are actually functions. So we'll get to that difference in a minute. Here's one example. For instance, the simple interest, I, that's what that stands for, earned on $1,000, that, by the way, is called the principal. They like to use terms like that. For 1 year is related to the annual interest rate, R, which today is minuscule, okay? Boy, I was looking the other day at my checking account, and, oh, you earn interest on the money in your checking account. It's a full 0.03%, and I mean, it's really tiny, okay? 1 penny, or something like that. But it's related. The amount of interest is related to the interest rate by this formula. The amount of interest is the principal times the rate of interest. Now, there was one time, not a very pretty time in our past, when interest rates were up in the double digits, 10, 15%, okay? Nowadays, interest rates are usually less than 1% if you're earning interest. Any of you got credit cards? And if you notice what the interest you pay on the credit cards, they haven't dropped much from back when the interest rate was double digits. They still are charging you 24% interest or something like that. You're earning 0.5% interest, and they're still charging you 20. Oh, someone's making some money on that, aren't they? Not you. Okay. But anyway, the amount of interest depends on the rate. If it's interest you're owing, it's usually a pretty big rate, and the interest is significant. Interest you're earning, quite often that's pretty small, so you're earning a small amount. That is a relation. Okay? Guess what, folks? That's also a function. We don't know that yet, but I'm telling you, it is a function. And many of our formulas and equations are indeed functions. There's a few that aren't, and I'll point those out when we get there. Okay? So this formula, I is equal to R, 1,000 times R, represents a special kind of relation that matches each item from one set. What do we mean by a set? Second? A group, a collection of things. From one set, it matches that to an item from some other set, with exactly one item from a different set. So this is a special kind of relation that does that. Let me give you a sort of a dumb example here, but I think you might be able to relate to it. Let's say you go down to the bookstore, you're really hungry because you've been thinking so hard in Math 112 this morning, and it's just burned up calories like crazy. So you go down to buy you a bag of chips in the bookstore. And the person right in front of you bought an identical bag of chips. Same brand, same size, same everything. And you watch him or her go through the line, and you notice they charge them $1.99. And then you put yours there, and they charge you $2.49. Are you a happy camper? Not at all. Why? Because for exactly one item from one set, you had identical items, it should match exactly with the item from the second. Bag of chips, one, toss, second. They should match exactly. And if that's the case, it's a function. Okay? So such a relation is a function. Here's the definition of a function. A function F Mathematicians are very creative with their titles. Function F, yeah, okay. From a set A, we'll talk about what that set A is. That could be the chips. To a set B, that would be the money, is a relation that assigns to each element, and they usually use X, they're very creative here, in set A, exactly one element, Y, in set B. In other words, for that bag of chips, it should have one and only one price for us to be happy in set B. The set A is called the domain. Those would be all the potential, the set of all the inputs, okay, of the function F, and set B is called the range, all the possible outputs, okay. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this right, though it was many decades ago. The first time I was introduced to functions was when I was a freshman in college, okay? In my first calculus class, and I remember Dr. Osborne was the professor for that class, and I remember he did something that helped me relate to it. He said, a function, he said, think of it as a black box, okay? Now, for those who've studied much science, you may have a concept of what we mean by black box. And unfortunately, with this new Screencast-O-Matic, I have to go through so many steps to write on the screen. But when I write, you see this on once it does. So he called it a black box, okay? Let's say here's the handle, here's the box, okay? And the box has input and it has output. And this is your function. Okay, you crank the handle, whatever you put into the box, the function does something to that, and then spits out the result. And simple-minded me, it took me back to the farm. I grew up on a farm in Georgia, and not every winter, but most winters, or several winters, we raised our own. We had chickens and ate the eggs. We raised pigs and ate the pork. We raised beef and ate the cows, and we raised a garden and ate that. We pretty much, to make it on a farm, you pretty much provided most of what you ate. And I remembered that in hog killing time, which is always dead winter, coldest time of the year, my father and anyone else that was happening would do that. They cut it up and stuff. They bring it into the house, and then he would cut it into the pork chops or the pork roast or the things. But there will always be a pile of scraps there, okay? Things that didn't quite go in, had meat on it, but not too much fat, but a little bit of meat, maybe some gristle. That got put into a pile. And then after a while, they'd set up the sausage grinder. And that was the thing you clipped to the table, and you turned the crank, and that was my job. That's why I remember this so well. I would be the crank turner, okay? And they would put in the scraps. They would put in the spices, a little bit of red pepper, a little bit of sage, a little bit of whatever you want to put in there. I would turn the crank, and out would come the sausage, okay? Your inputs from set A, those are the domains. The output, the sausage, that was the range, okay? The function is what made that happen, okay? Now, we'll be talking in terms of numbers. For instance, you put in the interest rate for that $1,000 you got there, turn the crank, you spit out the interest, okay? That's what a function is. You have an input and an output. That's what it is. I take it by your motion here that we must be running out of time. Are we? Okay. So we didn't get far, but we did get started at least. And let's see, how far did we get? We just barely got to there, so we'll start right after this slide next time. Looks like it's going to be a good class. Sorry that we just now are getting started on the math, but from now on it's going to be math. Okay? Thank you much. Already got some paper topics. Good deal. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Okay, that's all right. You can turn in this now, and then when you get your topic, tell me. I'll have this up here as well. Yeah. Okay. Very little has changed, I'm guessing. Okay, so I think you'll be able to do everything from that.
Okay, but it's not
Oh, it's not? Okay, yours starts in 1.3. Okay? In a later, the title function, that's where you begin. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've learned functions twice because we started my algebra 2 with trig, and I've already taken pre-cal. And
Uh-huh.
this is a completely different way than I've learned it.
Okay.
I've,
Worse?
It's
Can't tell yet.
This is a
Okay.
whole lot more confusing than the way that I learned.
Oh, really?
Because we learned it with graphs.
Yeah,
so-
we're going to get there. We're
Yeah.
going to get there.
And instead of set A and B, it's X and Y.
Yeah, we're going to get there next time. Yeah. I just scratched the surface here. Yeah. Hopefully it will get better. Okay. It will be. It's not yet. I've got to learn how to transfer it. See, the old program we used, Tegrity, I would end the thing, it would start uploading. Now I have to physically move it. New and improved. Okay. All right. Thanks. I'll try to get it there this afternoon if possible.
Okay, thank you.
All righty.